I am working on a gluten-free starter. So I did it before, it was last year when I was pretty new at starterhood of sourdough, but now that I'm really getting used to my regular sourdough starter, I have children who have celiac disease and they don't eat gluten, and I thought this is a really nice thing to do for my family. I need to learn how to do a sourdough starter that's gluten-free. It's not as easy and as straightforward as the regular sourdough starters, but I'm trying to make it attainable. This is 7 days old now. I have used, all I've used is this, the brown rice flour, Bob's Red Mill. That's what was recommended, so I'm trying it. This guy has been growing and not quite double jet, but if you can see, it's really growing every day, very consistently. So what I've done basically is started with my scale, of course, because in the beginning you always want to use your scale. Use it in grams. Use a littler jar because you're going to use a little amount. And then all you're going to do is use this guy, the brown rice flour, which is gluten-free, 100 grams, and then warm filtered water, 100 grams, and stir it up and place your rubber band at the top where you start. Every day for 1 week, you're going to feed it at the same time. Then when you feed it, you're going to take out half of it, throw it in the garbage. I know it's called discard, and you have to do this in the beginning. It seems like wasteful, but it's just a little amount. It's really not tons. So throw half of it away, then feed it half back. So you're just replacing what you threw away with more of this and just a little bit of water to make it stirrable. That makes sense. Stir it up, place your rubber band back on the counter, 24 hours the next day, take it out, stir it up, take out half of it, throw it in the garbage, replace it with your flour and a little water just so it gets stirred up and it's a little bit thick, but it's able to be stirred. Put your rubber band on and put it back on the counter. Do that for 7 days. I think after my second day, it actually started to rise and show me bubbles a lot faster than I thought. So it depends on your kitchen temperature, depends on your environment, if it's humid or not. But this tends to be what it looks like after 7 days. So I'm gonna feed it with you guys. I'm gonna discard and feed, and let's take a look and see what it looks like when I do it after the 7 days. And then I think I'm gonna do it for like 7 more days because you want your starter to be strong when you use it for your first loaf of bread. And I know with my regular starter, I fed it and I let it grow and get strong for at least 2 weeks before I used it for the first time. So that's what I'm gonna do with this guy. I'm gonna do it for 2 weeks, let it consistently rise and fall, feed. And after 2 weeks, which is in another week, we'll make our first loaf of bread and see how it turns out. So the close-up of our feeding schedule here with the gluten-free sourdough starter. When I took the lid off, it looks like this. It smells like kind of a little bit like sourdough, but really strong sour. So that means it's hungry and it's asking to be fed again. So what I'm going to do is stir this up, and you'll notice with sourdough starter that's gluten-free, it's a little more chunky. It doesn't have as much, I don't know, like strings, or maybe because it's the gluten that's not forming and there's no gluten in here. So it's like chunky, just kind of like, almost like cottage cheese. That's kind of the first thought I get in my mind. So anyhow, stir it up, and then we're gonna get rid of half of it so then we can feed it. And I'm gonna go do that right now. So I stir it up because I want all of it to be incorporated and be all uniform. And now I'm just gonna take a portion of it and I'm gonna toss that and we're gonna feed it. Throw it in the garbage because it does become hard when it gets, over time if it's not in a jar covered. So don't put it down your sink. Make sure you put it in the garbage, okay? So now I have discarded about half of it and my rubber band. I'll adjust in a minute, but now I'm gonna replace it with, I'm just eyeballing it because I know I took out how much I took out, and I'm gonna put more in. That's about double of what I have in the jar. You certainly can do this with the scale if you want to be more accurate and more precise. That's totally an option. A little bit of water just to wet it, to see how I didn't put hardly any in. I think I put a little. There, just a tiny bit of water. Now I just stir it all up and let's see what the consistency looks like. And we can adjust the water amount if we feel like we need a little bit more. You can can always put it in, but it's really hard to take it out. So put in a little less in the beginning. Just a little bit more is needed. See, just a little bit. I would say don't overdo the water, because really you want your starter to just have enough water where you're feeding it and not oversaturating it with water so it becomes really watery. I feel like when I do my starters, if I can get that perfect mix of water where it's just incorporated but not super watery, I feel like the starter performs better, it's stronger and happier, and makes a better loaf of bread. So I just do it enough to incorporate. So this is what the starter consistency looks like. It's very thick. See how I just dropped off of there? So now I'm just going around and scraping down the sides a little so I can see where I've started my feeding day today. And I just like to make it nice and flat so I can see what's happening. Get rid of my spoon. And it looks like this inside. And then I'm going to put my rubber band around where it is marked at the spot where we're going to start, so we can see how this guy wants to double in size or not, or double at all, or perform bubbles. Just kind of gives you a starting point. And then that's it. Put your little lid back on. I've been using dry erase marker. It seems to work good for me, so I can keep track. I have marked it, and this is good for 24 hours. I'm going to take off day 7, and today is the 15th. So I just take my dry erase, put 10-15, and day 8 now. I can be very consistent this way, and then I can just set it on the counter and wait till tomorrow. And then I'm going to feed it a couple more times, and then we'll show you the results as we go.